Welcome back. I recently installed the Racing Bros full front suspension kit in my 2022 Grom, and now to complete the suspension setup, I'm installing the rear shock. I decided to go with the Racing Bros Shicane HLR Edge shock. This is actually the same one that Steady Garage ran on their Project 56 bike. That was one of the first Groms that I saw at the Barber small bore event in June of last year. But I spent a lot of time looking at the different shocks and was very happy to land on this one. There's actually only a few companies that are offering 2022 specific shocks. Most people are running the Öhlins shock. One of the main disadvantages on the Öhlins shock for me is the fact that the can is external and ends up sitting here where I currently have my Chimera intake. Wait a minute, so after I recorded this, but before I posted it to YouTube, a viewer reached out and let me know that they're actually running the Öhlins rear shock with the air can right next to the Chimera intake. I've got some pictures here and it looks like it's a tight fit, but it does work, so I wanted to make sure that I was sharing that. The Shicane Edge has this right here on the back of the shock. This one is a couple $100 more than the Öhlins. Steady Garage also has one by Gears Racing that's a couple $100 more than this. I think it's $1,000 or more. I think this retails for about $800. There's quite a few adjustments you can make on this shock. It has high speed and low speed compression adjustments, as well as dampening and rebound. And you can also adjust the height plus or minus 10 millimeters. I think the main difference between the 2022 specific shocks and the ones from the previous model is that the 2022 Grom is, I think, 10 millimeters taller. The older shocks will work, but I'd prefer to install something that was specifically designed for this bike. Should be a very simple installation. Let me pull off the side panel and the seat. We'll take a look at the old shock, also hold them side by side, and then we'll get this one on the bike. I also wanted to quickly show off these titanium bolts that I put in place of the stock ones that came with the Yoshimura kit. The bolt that came with it just looks so much like it was from Home Depot or Lowe's. It just didn't match the overall finish, especially since it was a shiny zinc color and the rest is this kind of matte titanium. And then you can see some raw titanium here in the welds, which now match perfectly with this bolt. This is an M8 by 1.25 thread and it's 30 millimeters in length. Okay, I have the seat and the right triangle off. I'll need to move the brake reservoir as well as these two Phillips bolts to remove this little plastic piece so that we can hold the nut of the shock on this side and get a ratchet tool on this side to loosen the top bolt. So I can just move this out of the way now to get to the bolt in there. And from this side, you can see where the nut is that will hold with a box wrench as we spin it out from this side. All right, I didn't take the bolt completely out yet because I need to get the bike somewhat suspended before I remove that, but it's a 17 millimeter box wrench that you can hold the nut with on the top side here, and then a 14 millimeter ratchet that you can use to get inside to hold the bolt as you loosen it up. All right, so with the bottom bolt out, I'm going to finish taking out the top bolt. All right, old shock out. So before I throw the new one on the bike, I thought I'd hold them side by side. The overall lengths are the exact same. You can see that the coil, there's quite a bit more coils on this one, as well, of course, as the can on the end. This one also just looks pretty cheap. I mean, the Grom is a $3,300 motorcycle. I'm not really complaining there, but this one definitely looks nice. So yeah, dimension-wise about the same. This does feel a bit heavier. So since I noticed a weight difference, I thought I'd go ahead and weigh it before I get it onto the bike. The Racing Bros Shicane HLR Edge coming in at 1,898 grams, and the stock shock weighing 1,520 grams. So I think that's about a 370 gram difference, about 13 ounces. So somewhat heftier, but again, I'm expecting to get quite a bit more performance out of it to make that difference worth it. Okay, so the fitment is perfect and just enough space to clear both sides of the Yoshimura pipes. This diameter spring may be a couple millimeters wider than the stock one, but I still have about 5 millimeters on each side. And I also like how this air can is here and fills out a bit of that empty space that previously was taken up by the rear hugger, which I took off the bike. But I think now it looks pretty complete because while there was a lot of space without the exhaust system or this shock, now with both of these, it really fills out this back part of the bike. So let me get both of these nuts tightened and torqued and the panels back on the bike, and we should be done. All right, that was a very simple install. It only took about 15 minutes. I love the way the shock looks. I can't wait to get it on the road, start dialing it in, and reaping the benefits of having a suspension setup like this. I want to thank the guys at Steady Garage for not only advising me on this shock, but actually quite a few components on this bike. They've been very helpful as I've put this bike together. So a big shout out to those guys. I'll leave a link directly in the description below to this shock, and I'll also be doing a follow-up video after I put some miles on the bike, get it dialed in, and have some opinions on the overall performance of it. I still have a lot of videos planned for this bike. Next up will be gearing. I'm going to make a few changes to the ratio now that I'm making more power on the bike to try to balance that out. I have some cosmetic stuff coming and still planning on diving into the engine to try to make some bigger power. So thank you everybody for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.